Our story begins in the middle of an intense battle, where a monster known as the Breakup King is destroying the city while enjoying the suffering of the people. Meanwhile, Togo Asagaki, the Red Ranger, and his teammates prepare to face him by summoning the Kizuna Beasts. They combine the Kizuna Beasts into one massive monster, while Togo summons his sword. The Breakup King attacks repeatedly, but the Rangers dodge his attacks and land a powerful blow that destroys him. However, a beam suddenly fires from his vehicle and destroys their monster. Togo's teammates ask him to go ahead alone and finish the battle. He enters the vehicle and faces the Breakup King directly, eventually defeating him. But a massive explosion erupts inside, making Togo believe he has died. As he remembers his teammates and wishes he had spent more time with them, he suddenly lands headfirst in a strange world. 6 months later, a girl named Idola is testing adventurers by making them fight her golem, but they are easily defeated. Idola looks at a picture of her father and promises to restore her family's position as the royal scepter. She only has one adventurer left to test and expects another failure, but her old head butler tells her that this adventurer has gained impressive fame in only 6 months. Outside, Togo encounters the golem, which suddenly attacks him and sends him crashing through the palace window. Togo tells Idola to stay back, only for her to explain that the golem is actually her pet and part of the test. The golem continues attacking, but Togo easily dodges and blocks its strikes before transforming into the Red Ranger. Idola is shocked. She realizes that his device is not a magic item because she cannot sense any magic from it, and even wonders why his transformation causes an explosion. Togo easily defeats the golem and returns to normal. After being accepted, he introduces himself as Asagaki Togo and asks Idola to call him Red. The old man with her is Poseidon, the head butler. Togo then reveals that he came from another world. Idola admits there is evidence that could support his story, especially since rumors say the person who sealed the Demon King also came from another world. After asking about his Red Ranger form, Idola moves on to his first job. She asks him to collect mana ore from Wakinark, a recently discovered mineral created when underground mana bursts into the air and crystallizes. Idola wants to study the ore and report it to the royal family if it proves dangerous, as this is part of her family's duty as great mages. Togo becomes excited when he realizes that she protects the bonds between people and magic. He jumps from the window, transforms, summons the turbo engine, grabs Idola, and flies toward Wakinark. When they arrive, Idola complains about all the monsters they encountered on the way, but Togo ignores her and heads straight into the dungeon. Inside, Togo quickly defeats huge numbers of monsters, while Idola manages to defeat only one. He even pulls out a strange weapon that fires beams, leaving her amazed again. However, there is one problem. Every monster Togo defeats explodes, burning the items they drop. Togo says these monsters are extremely weak, making Idola wonder what kind of enemies he fought in his world. He explains that he fought monsters that stole people's bonds and tried to control the world. His teammates fought beside him, and together they formed the 5 Bonds team. Idola realizes that Togo still misses them and suggests finding a way home. Togo explains that he has already traveled across this world searching for one, but the more he explores, the more he sees people suffering from problems similar to those in his own world. Because of that, he has decided to stay and help anyone who needs him until he finds a way home. Togo then asks about Idola's dream. She wants to restore her family's position as the royal scepter, a title granted to mages by the royal family. The position once belonged to the Arvoln family, whose magical research focused on making people happy. But 10 years ago, Idola's father lost the battle for the title, and their family was driven from the capital. Now, the royal scepter is controlled by the Knight Order and nobles, who use it as a weapon of war. Idola wants to reclaim it and use magic to make people happy again. She admits that her dream may sound childish, but she refuses to give up on it. Togo becomes excited and tells her that her dream is amazing and that he has fallen in love with it. Idola becomes embarrassed before realizing that he simply means their dreams share the same goal. Eventually, they reach the mana ore. Idola notices that it looks different from naturally formed mana ore, which normally resembles a frozen fountain. She concludes that someone must have gathered it and placed it there. Suddenly, a monster attacks her, but Togo quickly saves her. Idola explains that it is a magic dragon guarding the ruins of Wakinark, and it was the one that gathered the mana ore. Togo prepares to transform, but Idola tells him to retreat because the ore is not worth risking his life. Togo refuses. "I can't do that because I fell in love with your dream, Idola." When the dragon attacks again, Togo grabs Idola and flies away. He tells her that he has a secret weapon capable of defeating it, but it requires a powerful bond of friendship, so he needs her help. Together, they summon the Kizuna beasts. Togo explains that this becomes possible when their bond reaches its maximum level. The dragon attacks the Kaiser, but it is weaker than usual because Togo currently has a bond with only 2 people, instead of the 5 needed for its full power. Even so, Togo pulls out a weapon from the Kaiser and attacks the dragon, causing it to explode and fall. The next day, Idola examines Togo and realizes that physically, he is no different from the people of her world, except for his strange transformation. So she decides to take a blood sample to find out whether he has mana. Togo immediately panics and tries to escape, but Idola eventually catches him. After that, Togo registers Idola at the Adventurers Guild. She receives a card that reveals her stats for the first time, showing that her magic power and intelligence are among the highest levels. Idola asks about Togo's stats, but he does not know how to display them, so she takes his card. When she opens it, she sees a strange figure completely covered in red, with a stat system completely different from her own. Togo asks if something is wrong, but Idola is too shocked to answer. Shortly afterward, the adventurers who failed Idola's test enter the guild, furious with her. After introducing themselves, they warn Togo not to form a party with her because of her arrogant attitude. Togo admits that Idola's attitude can be difficult, but says she is actually kind and even promised to create new magic to help him. However, the adventurers continue mocking her, saying she will never become a good adventurer, especially as the daughter of the cowardly mage Howdy. Idola freezes, while Togo is confused. One of the men explains that her father ran away after losing the battle for the position of royal scepter. We then see a flashback of Idola's father telling her that their duty is to make people happy, even without the royal scepter. Back in the present, Idola angrily demands that they take back their words and responds by pointing out their own weaknesses. The men draw their weapons, but Togo steps between them and suggests settling their problem through a mission instead of fighting. They accept a mission to defeat a mysterious monster inside a dungeon, agreeing that whoever defeats it first wins. The 2 adventurers plan to avoid powerful enemies and head deeper into the dungeon. Meanwhile, Togo transforms into the Red Ranger, but the noise and explosions he causes attract several minotaurs. He summons the turbo engine and starts defeating them before calling the Kizuna beasts and combining them into the Kaiser. However, the dungeon is so narrow that the Kaiser cannot even stand. They decide to get out and fight normally, only to discover that the Kaiser accidentally crushed most of the monsters already. Soon after, a Minotaur attacks one of the adventurers, but Idola saves him with water magic. The 2 are surprised that she helped them despite their argument. Idola explains that her father's goal was to make people happy through magic, and she intends to follow in his footsteps. But before she can make people happy, she first needs to keep them alive. She then tells them that she will not let them die before they apologize for insulting her father. The adventurers tell her she is not kind at all, but Togo says Idola is more beautiful than kind, leaving her extremely embarrassed. Suddenly, the mysterious monster appears. Even Idola has never seen anything like it in any book. The Minotaurs immediately become terrified and run away. Togo tells Idola to stay back because the creature gives him the same feeling as the monster generals he fought in his world. However, the 2 adventurers recklessly attack it, only for the monster to destroy their weapons. Togo attacks as well, but even his strikes have no effect. Its defense reminds him of a monster he once fought alongside the Blue Ranger. Back then, they defeated such powerful defenses by creating an even stronger bond and summoning a weapon known as the Bond Drill. Returning to the present, Togo asks the adventurers to help him. They reluctantly agree, even though working together will ruin their bet. Togo summons the Bond Drill, but the attack is extremely weak and does nothing. Their hearts are still not connected because of the hostility between them. Togo tells Idola that the same thing once happened when the Blue and Yellow Rangers argued. Togo begins running out of energy and is sent flying by the monster, forcing him back into his normal form. He tells Idola to take the others and escape, but she refuses and begins healing him. When the monster attacks her, the 2 adventurers step in and hold it back long enough for Idola to finish healing Togo. They eventually get knocked away, and the monster charges toward Idola. At that moment, Togo senses the bond forming between them. He gets back up, strikes the monster with an explosive blow, and transforms into the Red Ranger again. They summon the Bond Drill once more. This time, their bond makes it far stronger, allowing them to finally destroy the monster. Suddenly, an old man appears, so they take him back to the guild. Idola notices a strange orb on his forehead. By the end of the day, everyone says goodbye after becoming friends. However, Idola still wants to analyze Togo's blood to see whether he has mana. She pulls out her syringe again and chases him while he desperately runs away. Meanwhile, the old man they left for treatment escapes. We see him walking through the street, repeatedly saying, "Where is my treasure?" It is the exact same phrase the monster had been repeating. Soon after, a girl finds him and says, "I finally found you, Lord Noisel." She and her companion defeat him and remove the strange orb from his forehead. The girl then says they will need more people if they truly want to save this world. The next day, Togo returns to Idola's mansion and tells Poseidon that he will be living there from now on. Poseidon is clearly unhappy about it, but Idola explains that Togo went bankrupt after failing several missions because he kept blowing up the resources he was supposed to collect. She adds that having him there will also make her research about the other world easier. Poseidon agrees, but points out that Togo is a boy. Since Idola is like a granddaughter to him, he is extremely protective of her. He then approaches Togo and tells him there is one rule he must follow if he wants to live there. He must be castrated. Idola immediately steps in and pulls Poseidon away. At the same time, the two visitors at the door finally enter. The girl is Teltina, the third princess of the kingdom of Avalost, while the young man beside her is Logi Mist, her hero. We then see a romantic conversation between them, with Logi telling her, "I only want your love. I don't care what anyone else thinks." Teltina then returns to the main topic and takes out the object she removed from the old man's forehead. Teltina asks Idola to analyze the magical device. Idola tells her that they saw the same strange object on the forehead of an old man. They took him to the guild for treatment, but he later disappeared. Teltina reassures her that the man is fine now, then asks who originally managed to defeat the monster. Togo tells her that they defeated it together using the victory bond drill. At first, Teltina thinks it is some kind of magic. She then asks Idola to analyze the device because it can multiply the magic power of whoever uses it and also grant them a special type of magic that allows them to fulfill their wishes. This spell is known as the privilege spell. Teltina continues explaining. She says that if someone wants a huge amount of gold, for example, they can achieve that if they possess matter transformation magic, allowing them to turn anything into gold, and if they want to protect their treasure, they can create a spell that forms a barrier covering an area of up to 30,000 meters. Idola says that sounds like a good thing, but Teltina explains that the real problem begins when the seed starts growing. It gradually takes control of the host's body until it eventually turns them into a mana monster. Idola asks her, if these seeds are really that dangerous, why does the royal family not simply ban them and put an end to the problem? Teltina replies that they cannot do that so easily because there is a chance that the royal scepter, Xiaoha, has information related to the matter. These seeds are extremely expensive, and only nobles can afford them. Teltina also suspects that the royal scepter knows the truth about these seeds, yet has made no attempt to stop them from spreading. Togo immediately becomes excited and says that they should go and stop Xiaoha. However, Teltina tells him that the rest of the royal family supports Xiaoha, so she has to be careful if she does not want to be expelled from the family. She then explains that wealthy people are using privilege spells to force others to suffer, and as a princess, this is something she must deal with. Because of that, she asks Idola and Togo to help her solve the problem. Idola agrees because Teltina's goal is close to her own. Deep inside, however, she is also extremely happy because this allows her to kill two birds with one stone. She can get rid of someone who is using magic in the wrong way, while also building a connection with one of the princesses. Togo also announces that he will join them, but Logi steps in and tells him that he is nothing more than a terrible adventurer who does not deserve to accompany Princess Teltina on her journey. Togo becomes annoyed by his words and tells him that he will prove they are going to need him, and with that, a fight begins between the two. Teltina tells Idola that Logi possesses the same equipment once used by the hero who sealed the Demon King. She also assures her that there is no one in their world capable of defeating him. The fight begins, and Togo transforms into the Red Ranger. The moment Teltina sees his form, becomes excited and asks Idola what kind of magic it is. After several clashes, both Togo and Logi acknowledge each other's strength. Logi changes the form of his sword and starts taking the fight more seriously. In response, Togo summons the Kizuna beasts and combines them together to form the Kaiser. Logi is shocked by what he sees. Meanwhile, we discover that Teltina has entered the Kaiser, together with Togo and Idola. Idola is surprised because entering the Kaiser normally requires a bond between the people inside. However, Togo explains that Teltina told them about her goal and openly shared her feelings with them, and that alone is enough to create a bond between them. The moment Logi sees Teltina inside the Kaiser, he assumes Togo has kidnapped her. He becomes furious and immediately charges at him. Togo draws his sword, and with a single swing, he sends Logi flying an enormous distance away. Afterward, they go searching for him. When they finally find him, Logi still refuses to accept the idea of Togo joining them. However, Teltina eventually manages to convince him, and their journey officially begins with all of them traveling together. Their first destination is the city that never sleeps, Akalina, because the city's lord possesses a mana seed. During the journey, we see Togo teasing Logi by calling him Lo, which makes Logi angry every single time. Finally, they arrive in Akalina. They expected the city to be crowded and full of life, just as they had heard, but they are surprised to find it almost completely empty. At the same time, we see someone watching their group from a distance. Moments later, a girl appears in front of them and warns them not to interfere with the city's lord. She tells them that if they speak to the residents about their lord, those residents will be harmed because talking about the subject is forbidden. She then tells them to leave the city as quickly as possible. Teltina is confused and asks how the city's lord could possibly know that one of the residents spoke to outsiders when he is not even there. Idola says that the reason is most likely the magical field she can sense surrounding the city. Suddenly, a strange monster appears and attacks Idola, but Togo reacts quickly and saves her. Idola says that the creature is most likely one of the abilities created by the city lord's privilege magic. Then, without warning, the monster disappears and an old man appears before them. He introduces himself as the Lord of Akalina, Lulugart. Teltina tells him that she is the third princess of the Avalost Empire and orders him to get rid of the mana seed because it is harming his people. Logi feels proud of her, but Lulugart responds by saying that he has never oppressed his people or caused them any harm. He claims that he is simply maintaining order. Togo steps in and tells him that he is maintaining order through threats. Lulugart replies that what he is doing is not a threat, but guidance. Togo becomes angry and tells him to look around. Every resident in the city is living in fear of him. He says that if Lulugart truly wants to create order, then he should listen to the opinions of his people. However, Lulugart replies that they are following his orders right now, and that alone is enough to create order. Their opinions do not matter to him. That finally makes Togo lose his patience. He transforms into the Red Ranger, and the battle begins. Monsters start appearing from different places around him and attack him continuously. Idola analyzes Lulugart's privilege magic and concludes that he can probably detect anyone who breaks his rules through the mana surrounding the city, then summon creatures to punish them. His magical field also allows him to identify the areas Togo cannot defend and summon monsters to attack him from those exact points. However, Idola realizes that using an ability on such a massive scale would require an enormous amount of mana, making her terrified of just how powerful mana seeds truly are. Teltina asks Logi to go and help Togo, but he tells her that he plans to leave Togo as bait while the rest of them try to deal with Lulugart. However, Teltina knows his true intention perfectly well. In reality, he is enjoying watching Togo get beaten up. Togo prepares to summon the Kizuna beasts, but a powerful strike hits him in the back and knocks him out of his Red Ranger form. Suddenly, a yellow ball appears in the middle of the battlefield and releases a huge cloud of smoke. We then discover that the city's residents were the ones who threw it. They quickly take our group away from Lulugart. Everyone eventually reaches the resistance headquarters, where they meet its leader, a girl named Grossa. Grossa explains that the barrier does not reach the place where they are hiding, so Lulugart will not be able to find them there. She then asks them why they came to this city. After the group explains everything to Grossa, she tells them that they can use the resistance headquarters. She then explains that they had already tried to take the mana seed away from Lulugart before, but they failed. The reason they refused to leave the city and move somewhere safer without oppression is simple. They love this city and the life it has. Because of that, they are willing to do everything they can to take it back. For a moment, Togo remembers his own world and looks troubled, but he quickly returns to his usual energetic self. After that, we see the group trying to come up with a way to defeat Lulugart, especially after he managed to defeat Togo so easily. Idola takes out a list of the rules that trigger punishment whenever someone breaks them. Togo thinks of a very direct solution: blow up the entire city and kill Lulugart along with it. However, Idola suggests another idea. Instead of treating each other like enemies, Logi and Togo should fight side by side. If they work together, they might be able to defeat Lulugart. However, the plan has several problems. First, Logi does not want to cooperate with Togo. Second, Togo's explosions could hit Logi as well. And third, the two of them are not in sync at all. During that time, we see Teltina telling Logi that she will wash his hair if he agrees to cooperate with Togo, while Idola looks at their relationship with disgust. At the end of the day, Togo meets Teltina in the forest and tells her that he is going to take a bath. Teltina tells him that if he goes now, he will be alone. However, we soon discover that she knows Idola is still there and is only trying to arrange things between the two of them. In the end, Togo asks her why she plans to come with them to the palace the next day. Teltina talks with him for a while before ending the conversation by saying, "Do your best to protect all of us, hero of this world." Logi happens to be standing nearby and hears everything. After that, we see him take one of Togo's devices. The next day, the group heads to the palace. Before the fight with Lulugart begins, Togo tries to transform, but he cannot find his bond plate. He becomes confused for a moment, and Lulugart immediately takes advantage of the opening. He hits Togo with a powerful attack that sends him flying out of the palace and into the river below. Idola quickly jumps down after him to save him. Meanwhile, Logi prepares to fight and says that his world does not need Togo's ridiculous bonds. After that, we see one of Togo's memories. A white-haired girl tells him that the reason he is always trying to form so many bonds with other people is because he is afraid of being alone. Back in the present, Togo regains consciousness after nearly drowning. At the same time, Teltina reaches Logi and tells him that the plan has failed and that they need to retreat immediately. However, Logi refuses to retreat and tells her, "I'm your hero." He then starts fighting Lulugart and uses a large number of holy swords. After that, we see a flashback from 2 years earlier when Teltina found Logi on the street and asked him if he wanted to become a hero. Logi asks her how he could possibly become a hero when he does not have any mana. Teltina tells him that this is actually a good thing. The royal family's holy sword needs someone who has no mana because it absorbs mana from anyone it touches. Because Logi has no mana of his own, he is perfectly suited to use it. However, Logi rejects the idea at first. People abandoned him and made fun of him, so he cannot understand why he should become their hero or why he should be the one to save them. Teltina manages to calm him down. Returning to the present, we see Logi preparing to launch an attack that will destroy a large number of monsters. However, Lulugart takes advantage of the moment and attacks Teltina. Logi immediately abandons the fight and rushes to protect her, causing him to take a large number of attacks himself. Togo and Idola then step in. Idola creates a barrier and uses healing magic on Logi, who is no longer able to stand. Togo tries to help him get back on his feet, but Logi becomes angry and pushes him away. At that moment, the bond plate falls out of Logi's clothes. Everyone is shocked, but Togo, in his usual innocent way, walks over to him and asks, "You wanted to transform, didn't you?" Teltina walks toward Logi, clearly angry, and demands that he tell her the truth. Logi admits that he heard her calling Togo a hero, and that made him jealous. Teltina talks to him and explains that no matter how many other heroes appear, he will always be her one and only hero. Togo immediately becomes excited and walks over to Logi, asking him to form a bond with him. However, Logi refuses and tells him that the two of them are fundamentally incompatible. Idola becomes extremely angry, but she tries to calm herself down. After that, Togo and Logi finally begin fighting together, just as they had planned from the start. Togo transforms into the Red Ranger, and the two become much stronger once they start working together. Lulugart can no longer find any weak points in their defense, and the two launch a combined attack that sends him flying away. They believe they have finally defeated him, but suddenly, something strange appears on the wall of the palace. It is the mana seed, and it begins growing rapidly. Everyone escapes from the palace while the seed continues expanding until it becomes enormous, then starts falling toward the city. Grossa immediately begins evacuating the residents. However, Togo tells everyone to stay calm and says that he will handle it. He summons the Kizuna beasts and combines them together. Then he flies toward the giant mass, which now looks like a massive meteor. Since blowing it up there would destroy the city, Togo decides not to attack it. Instead, they carry it away and keep flying until they reach space. At that point, Togo hands the sword to Logi and tells him, "I'll leave it to you." Logi swings the sword with tremendous force and manages to cut the monster in half. After that, everyone returns, bringing Lulugart and the mana seed back with them. Teltina tells Togo that there are only two ways to stop a mana seed from growing and going out of control. Either kill the host or remove the seed from their body. Togo asks her how they can remove the seed. Suddenly, a strange light comes from Teltina, and she casts a spell that summons a massive silver wolf. At that moment, we discover that Teltina also possesses a mana seed. The wolf walks toward Lulugart and swallows him for a few moments before spitting him back out. Everyone is shocked when they notice that the mana seed has disappeared from his body. However, Togo and Idola ignore what just happened for a moment and immediately start playing with the wolf's fur. Togo asks Teltina if the wolf is dangerous, especially since it is also one of her privileged spells. She explains that the wolf is called Virko Lux and that hurting people is not in its nature. In fact, it was born from Teltina's desire to save people whose bodies contain mana seeds. Because of that, its only ability is to retrieve mana seeds from their bodies. She adds that despite its massive size, even stray dogs are more dangerous than it. After that, Teltina sends Virko Lux away and tells them that she kept this ability hidden until now because she did not want them to worry about her. Having this ability also makes her a threat to the people distributing the mana seeds, so she first wanted to make sure she could trust them. Togo tells her that when he was a member of the Five Bonds team, he also tried to hide his identity. However, he only managed to keep it secret for 1 week before everyone found out. After that, we see a strange creature that looks like a set of teeth watching Togo. It says that this time the color is red. Suddenly, a strange creature appears before everyone and introduces himself as Abu Dhabi, telling them that he is a royal demon. Everyone is shocked, but Teltina explains that the royal demons are demons born from the demon queen before she was sealed away 1,000 years ago. Their goal is to free their queen. This is also the first time one of them has appeared after an entire century of hiding. Abu Dhabi tells them that he came here to wipe out the people who have been destroying his seeds. Teltina remembers someone precious to her who seems to have died because of those seeds, making her furious with Abu Dhabi. However, he does not care about her anger. He tells them that his goal is to spread the seeds until they bloom and release negative mana. Once enough of it spreads, their queen will finally be able to return. Suddenly, he attacks Teltina, but Logi is paying attention and steps in just in time. Togo transforms into the Red Ranger, and the battle begins. Abu Dhabi summons creatures formed from mana seeds, and we discover that the city's residents are trapped inside those monsters, including Grossa. Togo becomes furious and charges toward Abu Dhabi, but every one of his attacks is blocked. Teltina asks Logi to go and help Togo, but Logi stubbornly refuses to help him. Teltina becomes angry and tells him that this is not the time for their personal conflict. This is the demon responsible for distributing the seeds, and they need to defeat him. Logi finally goes to support Togo. Abu Dhabi attacks both of them, but they manage to dodge his attacks. At the same time, Teltina manages to free several people from the mana seeds. However, there are so many seeds that she begins to grow exhausted. Even so, she gets back up and continues saving more people, while Idola watches in shock at her determination. During the battle, Abu Dhabi talks to Togo and tells him that he misses his mother's smile whenever he used to tell her about his day. That is why he has continued fighting for 1,000 years. Also, he can see her again. He then tells Togo that this means there is a powerful bond between him and his mother, before asking, if there is a bond between us, then why are you standing in its way? Togo knows that villains can have bonds too, but their intentions can still be evil. Because of that, he tells Abu Dhabi that he is here to cut those bonds. Togo charges at him again, but Abu Dhabi manages to defeat both Togo and Logi. Togo gets back up, and Abu Dhabi prepares to deliver the final blow, telling him that there is no mercy for heroes from other worlds. Before the attack can hit Togo, Logi pushes him out of the way and takes the attack instead. Togo is shocked and quickly rushes over to check on him, asking why he would do something like that for him. Logi replies that it was just a sudden impulse, but deep down, he seems to feel guilty about the way he treated Togo before. Togo becomes furious and says that he will never allow anyone to die in front of him again. Suddenly, a black aura appears around him, and his power rises dramatically. He charges toward Abu Dhabi at incredible speed and lands one attack after another, moving so fast that Abu Dhabi cannot even dodge them. But suddenly, the royal scepter appears and casts a spell that restrains most of the monsters. She then begins mocking Idola and her family. Abu Dhabi takes advantage of the opportunity and escapes. After that, we see Logi apologizing to Teltina for leaving her alone. At the same time, Teltina has the holy sword absorb the excess mana her body absorbed from the mana seeds. Grossa tells them to wait a little longer, and soon they will see the city of Akalina return to the lively place it once was. However, Togo is lost in thought, thinking about Abu Dhabi's words. The way he spoke suggested that he had fought people from other worlds before, and that makes Togo curious. Idola tells him that there are rumors saying the hero who sealed the Demon Queen also came from another world. Togo becomes excited and asks what happened to that hero and whether he managed to return to his own world. However, Idola tells him that the books never mentioned what happened to the hero after the Demon Queen was sealed. After that, everyone travels through a teleportation gate created by the Royal Scepter and arrives at the Magic Tower. There, the Royal Scepter begins mocking Idola because she had previously been expelled from the Magic Tower. Teltina regains consciousness after Xiaoha treats her. Idola approaches Xiaoha and asks how she knew the proper way to treat Teltina. Xiaoha tells her that she researched the seeds because the royal family supports their use, then takes the opportunity to tease Idola. She explains that the royal family also possesses mana seeds, but they do not use them. Instead, they keep them only as an emergency military option. The place is filled with mages, all of them among the best of the best, rather than mere rogue mages. Togo does not understand what that means, so Idola explains that rogue mages are mages who do not work inside the tower and do not have a license to conduct research. The Empire does not place restrictions on the use of magic itself. However, anyone who wants to conduct magical research must have a certificate that allows them to do so. Idola already has this certificate, but even with it, her research must still be reviewed by the Magic Tower before she is allowed to make it public. In other words, Xiaoha has almost complete authority over magical research. Xiaoha's goal is to keep magic under her control and in the hands of the nobles. Idola objects and tells her that this is wrong. Magic should be used to help people in need, make everyday life easier, and bring happiness to as many people as possible. Xiaoha becomes angry at her words and tells Idola that she is exactly like her foolish father. She then explains that her father's poor management and his obsession with simply making people happy caused the quality of magic item production to decline because there was not enough proper supervision. As a result, more and more accidents happened year after year. Idola tells Xiaoha that none of what she said justifies trying to control everything. Xiaoha then asks her how many minor accidents were caused by low-quality magic lamps. She follows with another question. How many farmers marched toward nobles' mansions carrying magical weapons? And how many times were magic items used to enslave demi-humans? She explains that all of these are examples of Idola's father's poor leadership. In her view, people need someone to rule over them, not someone who simply gives them freedom. After that, Xiaoha asks Togo whether he agrees with her. Unlike his usual self, Togo becomes serious and tells Xiaoha that Idola's dream really is difficult and will not be easy to achieve. He also admits that magic items can hurt people if they are used the wrong way. For a moment, Idola thinks Togo has turned against her. However, Togo changes his tone and prepares to continue, but Idola runs away before hearing the rest. From her point of view, Togo has become just like everyone else who mocked her dream and rejected her goal. Togo runs after her and manages to catch up, but Idola tells him to leave her alone before confronting him about what he said in front of Xiaoha. Togo manages to stop her and explains what he truly meant. He knows that her dream is difficult and almost impossible, and that is exactly why he wants to achieve it together with her. He also tells her that maintaining peace is difficult, which means they will need to build bonds between people if they want to reach their goal. Togo starts feeling cold, so the two fly back toward the tower together. On the way, they talk about how they will need the help of many people if they truly want to make as many people happy as possible. Togo explains that the most important thing Idola needs in order to achieve her dream is to listen to different points of view, even ones like Xiaoha's. The idea of licenses itself is not bad. Togo tells her that even in his world, people needed licenses to use dangerous things, and having rules helped everything run more smoothly. Idola tells him that she does not disagree with the idea of licenses itself. She simply believes that the way they are being enforced is far too strict. She also explains that even low-quality magic items can be used safely as long as people know the correct way to use them. That gives Idola a new idea. She suggests opening magic item shops in cities that do not have schools, with mages working inside those shops as teachers as well. They could teach people the proper way to use magic items. Togo suggests that she go and present this idea to Xiaoha. He tells her that her goal is to make people happy using magic items, while Xiaoha wants to keep people safe. Combining those two goals would surely make the world a better place. However, Idola refuses because Xiaohe is the one who took the position of royal scepter away from her father. Togo tells her that this is actually an even better reason to form a bond with her, even if she is her enemy. He then adds that forming bonds with enemies can sometimes lead to interesting things. After that, we see Togo jumping onto Logi's balcony and thanking him for saving him from Abu Dhabi's attack. Suddenly, Togo's tone becomes serious as he tells him, "Don't ever do that again." Then he immediately returns to his usual personality and starts teasing him. After that, Logi talks with Togo about space. People in their world used to believe that beyond the clouds and the blue sky was a place where angels lived and where the souls of the dead went. But now, they have discovered that what is actually up there is nothing more than space. Suddenly, Togo begins glowing and disappears right in front of him. We then learn that there is a technique known as emergency bond summoning. It existed in Togo's world, but it requires a strong bond between people. That is what caused Togo to be summoned to Idola's location. Idola starts thinking and comes up with the idea that bonds may somehow react with mana ore, especially since she was holding a piece of mana ore when Togo was summoned to her. Togo tells her that Professor Pythagoras, the man who developed Kizuna bonds and the Kizuna beasts, used to say that anything could be formed through bonds. From his words, Idola understands that Togo's suit, his beasts, and all of his equipment are made from bonds. However, that still does not explain the teleportation that just happened. Togo suggests that if the bond between two people is strong enough, the technique may break down one side of that bond and then rebuild it near the person connected to the other side. Idola asks him that if this technique can really do something like that, why does he not use it to return to his own world? Togo replies that it probably cannot make him cross the barrier separating different worlds. At that moment, Idola realizes that this would mean some kind of bond exists between her world and Togo's world. She starts wondering what could explain the existence of a mineral containing bond energy in this world. After that, the group enters to meet the king and deliver their report. The first prince talks about Teltina as if he believes she is useless, and it is obvious that he does not like her. The king, however, acts completely differently. He tells Teltina that he will order the nobles to give up their mana seeds so that she will not have to go and remove them herself again because he is worried about her. However, Teltina tells him that most of them will probably refuse to follow the order. She then asks for permission to continue her journey. The king agrees, but tells her to be careful. Togo thinks that the king seems like a kind person, while Daryl, the first prince, seems much more evil. Daryl suggests that the king should keep the mana seeds instead of getting rid of them because they are a valuable source of power. He adds that even if the demon queen returns, it would not be a problem because they already have a hero carrying the holy sword, Logi. He then tells the king that as long as they possess the power of the seeds, they can bring down the demi-human alliance and turn it into a vassal state. By doing so, they could unite the entire world under the banner of their empire. Teltina interrupts him and points out that demons have the ability to control the power of the mana seeds, which means relying on them as part of their military strength would be foolish. However, Daryl replies that they can modify the seeds so the demons will no longer be able to control them. He then asks Shaola whether she can do that. Shaola answers that she certainly can, but says she will not agree to using the seeds until they find a safe way to take advantage of them. For now, Daryl's goal is to seize the mana seeds instead of destroying them and keep them until Shaola finishes her research and manages to modify them. The king agrees with Daryl's idea and decides that if anyone refuses to hand over their mana seed, Teltina will deal with them herself. Even though Daryl treats her poorly, Teltina remains respectful and speaks to him calmly. Daryl is surprised by how much she has changed. She used to disobey orders all the time, but now she has become much more polite. He then asks if she is trying to take Altio's place. Teltina feels both sad and angry, but she controls herself and tells him that she will never be a replacement for her brother. After that, Idola goes to Shaola and talks to her about using the mana seeds as military power. Shaola tries to explain and defend her position, but Idola interrupts her and begins presenting several suggestions for improving the approval system for magical research. Shaola suddenly throws down her scepter and starts making fun of her. She then tells Idola that if she is trying to win her favor, she will make her do something in return. Idola immediately denies that she is trying to win her favor. In the end, Shaola jokingly tells her that their goals actually align with each other and asks Idola to calm down so she can explain. After that, we see our group traveling through the desert toward the Sun Forest, the land where the ancient fairies live. There is currently a conflict between the fairies and the people living in the nearby settlements. Togo's eyes light up with excitement because he believes they might be able to get information from the fairies about the hero who appeared 1,000 years ago. They also hear that one of the fairies is using a strange power. Togo guesses that it might be a privilege spell, but Idola tells him that they are already heading there, so they will soon find out for themselves whether that power is really a privilege spell or not. Finally, the forest appears in front of them. The moment Togo sees it, he becomes excited and shouts, "A giant cactus!" Idola is confused by what he says because she does not even know what a cactus is. Togo remains amazed by the sight, and then we see a flashback from his old world. There, we see the yellow Kizuna, Tobihoshi Emily, who absolutely loved cacti. Togo teases her a little too much, making her angry with him. Back in Idola's world, she tells Togo that this land used to be a forest filled with plants, but the Demon Queen turned it into a wasteland 1,000 years ago. After that, they take off the cloaks they have been wearing. During that time, Idola accidentally gets a small cut on her hand from one of the cactus thorns. She tells Togo that it is only a small wound and nothing to worry about, but he becomes concerned and tells her that even small wounds can become dangerous if they get infected, so they need to be cleaned properly. He then places a bond bandage he brought from his world on her finger. Idola becomes embarrassed when she realizes that Togo placed it on her ring finger. Suddenly, a mysterious person appears, grabs Idola, and flies away with her. Togo quickly transforms and chases after him, but the man fires a huge number of spikes toward him. Logi and Teltina also move to help, but they are suddenly stopped by a group of fairies standing in their way. One of the fairies asks why they came to this place. Logi tells her that they came to take back the strange power they possess. The girl immediately becomes angry and says, "So you're after a men." The fairies then attack them all with their bows. However, Logi blocks their attacks and responds with a single strike that defeats all of them. After that, a girl named Rania appears, and from her appearance alone, it is obvious that she is extremely powerful. Rania uses power and equipment similar to Togo's, then transforms into a form resembling a pharaoh cat. Meanwhile, Togo continues chasing the man who kidnapped Idola. Idola tries using the teleportation technique they talked about the previous day, and it actually works. Togo manages to catch the man and save Idola. The man becomes angry and tells them, "We will never hand Amen's power over to you." The strange part is that our group does not even know who Amen is. Meanwhile, on Logi's side, we discover that Rania herself is Amen after transforming. Teltina tells Logi that this power looks similar to Togo's. Logi then concludes that the mysterious power in this place does not come from mana seeds. Rania becomes angry at his words and tells him not to compare the evil energy produced by the seeds to Amen's power. She then attacks them again. Rania tells them that this power was given by the hero who sealed the Demon Queen to their own hero, who fought alongside him. It was a gift meant to protect the forest. Teltina tries to calm the situation and explains that as long as Rania's power does not come from a mana seed, they have no reason to fight her. However, Rania refuses to back down and continues attacking them. Logi asks her, "Aren't you going to summon the giant?" He is referring to the Kizuna beasts, but Rania has no idea what he is talking about. Rania changes the form of her suit and begins using long-range attacks, so the sword cannot absorb her mana. She gathers a massive fireball and launches it toward Logi. However, Logi cuts the fireball in half with his sword. He is then surprised to see that Rania has not stopped. Instead, she follows up with 2 more fireballs. Logi grabs Teltina and runs away with her, but Rania does not let them escape. She transforms into a form capable of flying and immediately chases after them. She launches several missiles toward Logi, but he dodges them and manages to land a powerful strike on her, causing a massive explosion. However, Rania is completely unharmed. She charges toward him and slams him into the ground. Logi moves Teltina away from the battlefield, then uses the 6th holy sword, Last Black. At the same time, Rania raises her power to an even higher level. The two charge toward each other at the exact same moment, each preparing to unleash their attack, but Togo steps in at the last second and separates them, stopping the fight. The moment Rania sees Togo, she is completely shocked and begins remembering the ancient hero. Togo tells them that the mana seed is with the people attacking the forest. Logi replies that they already know that, but the problem is that this girl refuses to stop attacking them. Rania steps forward, looking completely stunned. Logi asks Togo if he knows her, but Togo tells him that he has never seen her before. He also points out that the equipment and powers she uses are different from those of the 5 Kizuna. Rania then asks Togo if he is the person mentioned in the prophecy, the legendary Red Warrior. Suddenly, everyone bows before him. They apologize for what they did to his companions. Rania then tells him that they are willing to accept any punishment he gives them, but begs him to save their forest. After that, we see the inside of the forest, which is full of life. Rania's personality also changes completely, and she begins speaking to them very kindly. She explains that this is her real personality, but during battle, she blocks out this side of herself so she can focus completely on fighting. After that, everyone enters one of the temples. There, Rania shows them the prophecy that spoke about Togo. The walls contain drawings that look like him, along with writings left behind by the prophet 1,000 years ago. The prophecy says that when the forest faces a danger that threatens to destroy it, the Red Ranger will appear and save it from destruction. Rania tells Togo that the danger mentioned in the prophecy is most likely the man who possesses the mana seed, a man named Azir. Azir is the lord of the city of Kukja, and he has tried to invade the forest several times before. This has damaged the relationship between the fairies and the other nations around them. His ability also allows him to control sand, and the environment surrounding the forest gives him a major advantage over them, making his power even more dangerous. So far, all Rania has been able to do is slow him down and prevent him from advancing. The last thing Azir said during his previous attack was that she must surrender and give up Amin's power. If she refuses, he will kill everyone living in the forest. Rania asks Togo and his companions to help them. Togo immediately agrees, and Teltina agrees as well, because the situation involves mana seeds. After that, Togo asks Rania about the prophet who wrote the prophecy. She tells him that the prophet possessed a power similar to Amin's and was a member of the heroes group. If there is anyone who might have information about him, it would be an old woman who lived during that time. The problem is that she is currently in a coma and may not wake up for decades. Togo feels a little disappointed when he hears that. Elsewhere, we see Azir with 2 other people preparing to launch another attack on the forest. After that, we see the fairies showing the group several new spells. One of them is a spell that can make objects lighter. They test it on a rock, and it becomes much lighter than it was before. During that time, Togo notices Rania sitting alone and asks her why. Rania begins telling him about a human she was extremely compatible with. The 2 of them were very close friends. Togo immediately guesses and says, "You mean Azir, right?" And sure enough, Azir is the person she is talking about. Rania tells him that they were childhood friends and used to spend a lot of time together. However, she becomes angry when she remembers what he has done and promises that she will defeat him. Togo tells her that after she defeats him, she should make peace with him so they can become friends again. He then tells her that his own best friend once fought him when they were both angry. But after the fight ended and they understood each other's feelings, they made up. During that time, we see Idola feeling jealous because Rania is sitting alone with Togo. After that, Togo begins telling Rania about his past. He tells her that he lost both his father and mother when he was young, leaving him completely alone during that time. However, a man named Sendo Daigo, who had been a friend of his father, appeared and asked Togo to come live with him and his family. When Togo arrives at their home, he starts crying and tells Daigo that his parents have only just died and that he cannot replace them with a new family so quickly. Daigo then takes him outside and plants an olive tree. He tells Togo that as the tree grows bigger, it will mean that Togo is becoming a bigger part of their family and growing together with them day by day. After that, Togo meets Daigo's son, Kiyohiro, and the 2 quickly become best friends. During elementary school, Togo is bullied a lot because he is a transfer student. Kiyohiro is always the one who saves him, but instead of using violence, he relies on his intelligence. He threatens the bullies by telling them that he will report them to the school principal because he hates violence. Kiyohiro is also one of the most popular students at school. During one of their school plays, Kiyohiro plays the prince, while Togo's role is nothing more than a tree. As time passes, the 2 become extremely close, almost like brothers, even though they have a few small problems from time to time. Kiyohiro also helps Togo with his studies and teaches him how to play the piano. The two eventually enter high school together, and their strong friendship continues there as well. When Kiyohiro runs for student council president, Togo is one of the people who supports and encourages his campaign the most, and Kiyohiro ends up winning the election. However, one day, Kiyohiro overhears some people telling Togo that Kiyohiro only won because Togo supported him, and that if Togo had run for the position himself, he would have been better than Kiyohiro. But Togo immediately rejects what they are saying and completely denies it. Then one day, a monster named Miffy Mouse appears. That is the day Togo transforms into the Red Ranger for the first time. Even after Togo begins fighting as the Red Ranger, his relationship with Kiyohiro remains strong. When Kiyohiro enters a piano competition, Togo is there to cheer him on and support him. However, on the day they are supposed to celebrate Kiyohiro's victory in the competition, Togo has to leave, most likely because he needs to deal with a mission as the Red Ranger. Of course, no one else knows anything about his true identity. Shortly before the celebration begins, Togo enters the house, but the moment he steps inside, he collapses to the floor. When he regains consciousness, everyone asks him what happened. However, Togo tells them that he simply pushed himself too hard during soccer practice. He asks them not to worry and says, "Come on, let's celebrate Kiyohiro's victory." The next day, the olive tree begins to wither. After that, another incident occurs. A monster appears with a strange ability that allows it to ruin good relationships between people, making them constantly fight with each other. Togo goes to confront it and summons the other rangers, beginning a battle between them and the monster. By the time the fight ends, Togo is badly injured. During that time, he sees Kiyohiro wrapping a bandage around a wound on his hand, but Togo notices that Kiyohiro's hand and body are covered in injuries as well. Suddenly, right in front of him, Kiyohiro transforms into the very same monster Togo had been fighting. The fight between Togo and Kiyohiro begins again. During the battle, we discover that Kiyohiro has been jealous of Togo all this time because most of the attention was always focused on him. Togo is shocked and refuses to believe that everything they went through together was nothing more than a lie. During the fight, the other monster fires something at Togo that is supposed to turn him into a breakup monster as well. However, Togo manages to hold himself together and tries to bring Kiyohiro back to his senses through their shared memories. He keeps attacking him while reminding him of their relationship and everything they experienced together. But because of all the negative energy spreading throughout the city, a strange hole suddenly opens. Kiyohiro transforms into an even larger monster and begins destroying the city. Togo's teammates arrive and combine the Kizuna beasts, starting another battle. At first, the fight is evenly matched, but it soon becomes clear that Kiyohiro is not acting completely of his own will. Togo and his teammates are nearly defeated, but suddenly, another monster appears and saves them. Strangely, everyone feels as if they already know this monster, even though this is the first time they have ever seen it. In the end, Togo and his teammates manage to defeat Kiyohiro using the cannon. After the battle, Togo makes peace with him. Kiyohiro feels guilty about everything he has done, but Togo reassures him and tells him that they can always build new bonds together again. Things finally return to normal. However, we are then surprised to learn that Kiyohiro ends up fighting Togo several more times. Their battles eventually reach a total of 13, before Kiyohiro finally returns completely to his normal self. Back in the present, strange cards suddenly appear throughout the forest and begin pulling people inside them. We discover that this ability belongs to one of the people working with Azir, and he also possesses a mana seed. Logi becomes furious and charges at him, but the man uses his ability and traps Logi inside one of the cards as well. Rania becomes extremely angry. At that moment, Azir appears and begins mocking her for still being unable to control her emotions. Rania asks what happened to him. In the past, he wanted to build a world where humans and demi-humans could live together. Azir tells her that his goal has not changed. The only difference is that now, he wants to force everyone into submission. He then tells her that if she submits to him now, he will release everyone trapped inside the cards. Togo and Rania transform, preparing to fight. However, Azir tells Rania to come with him to the ruins of Odold, a place where his power seems to reach its highest level. Rania is forced to go with him because the man with the card ability threatens the hostages. Rania summons a motorcycle, and the two head toward the location together. On the way, however, another person using a privilege spell appears before them. He tells them that he will not allow anyone except Amen to pass. They defeat him quickly and continue on their way. Meanwhile, the man with the card ability is still behind. Idola uses a spell that causes both the card and the book containing the rest of the cards to explode. We discover that she had prepared this spell before she was pulled inside the card, allowing her to defeat him. After that, everyone begins coming out of the cards one by one. Teltina summons her wolf, which starts removing the mana seeds from them. Elsewhere, we see Vidan, Azir's assistant, telling him that the two people he brought with him have been defeated. Azir thanks him because they gave him enough time to prepare a suitable environment where he can fight Rania without destroying the forest. This makes it clear that Azir is not completely evil. After that, Vidan leaves him and returns to Kukja. Rania and Togo finally reach the location, and the battle begins. Azir completely destroys the motorcycle. Then the ground beneath them turns into quicksand. Togo asks where he took the people. Azir tells him that anyone who falls into the sand becomes like a piece of candy melting in his mouth, meaning that they dissolve into the sand. Togo charges at him, while at the same time trying to avoid the hand of the monster Azir is using so he will not be turned into sand. Using his head, Togo creates a barrier between himself and the monster's hand, then manages to blow it up. Rania transforms and charges toward Azir at incredible speed, attacking him repeatedly, but her strikes barely affect him. Azir then uses a skill that leaves both of them unable to move. Even so, Togo manages to escape from the hand of Azir's monster. At that moment, Togo realizes that Azir cannot turn living creatures into sand, and his guess is correct. After that, we see Logi and the two girls with him surrounded by a huge number of mummies. Logi prepares to fight. Meanwhile, Azir tells Rania that he can never be defeated as long as he has Lil Abad, then asks her to accept his rule. Togo steps in and warns him not to overuse the mana seed, because eventually, it will turn him into a massive mass of mana. Azir becomes angry at his words, and the sand swallows Togo, pulling him underground to where Logi is. Rania asks Azir if he did not hear Togo's warning about how dangerous the mana seeds are, but Azir does not care. To him, taking risks is completely normal as long as they are necessary to achieve his goal. The two continue fighting. During the battle, we see a flashback from 12 years earlier when Rania first met Azir. Azir tries to get closer to her, but she ignores him. He wants to learn more about the elves, but Rania leaves him behind and walks away. After that, we see Azir wandering through the forest. Suddenly, Rania's mask falls from the top of a giant cactus. Azir climbs up to retrieve it, and there he finds Rania sleeping above. She suddenly wakes up and becomes frightened when she sees him. She quickly climbs down, starts crying, and begs him to give her masks back. At that moment, we notice that her personality has completely changed. But the moment she puts the masks back on, her strong personality returns. Rania explains to Azir that the two masks she wears allow her to either remain calm and intelligent or act like a warrior. Her true personality, however, is extremely shy. Because of that shyness, she feels that she is not qualified to carry the responsibility of becoming the new Amen. The two sit together and talk, and their friendship begins from there. Azir convinces her that she can become Amen even without depending on her masks. He also suggests that she start training with him and learn to speak with him without wearing either mask. Back in the present, Rania asks Azir to come back to his senses. She tells him that his true personality was never someone who wanted to control people through force. She continues attacking him. With every attack, another memory from the past returns to her. However, Azir eventually manages to defeat her and then stops time. After that, we see Togo and his companions returning to the surface. Rania has suffered many injuries, while Azir manages to transform into Amen. The two move toward each other and throw a punch at the same time. During that moment, we see another flashback. The people are angry because the fairies are receiving higher wages than they are. Azir explains that the reason is simply that the fairies are more efficient at their jobs, so they earn more money. However, one man accuses him of paying them more only because of his relationship with Rania. After that, we see a meeting between Azir and his father. His father asks him about the nature of his relationship with Rania. Azir tells him that they are close friends. His father is surprised by the answer and points out that they have known each other for a long time. He then wonders whether their relationship might eventually become something more serious. He also makes it clear that he would have no problem at all with his son's wife being from a different race. In fact, Azir's father had already discussed this matter with Ravan, Rania's father, because a relationship between the two of them could turn them into a bridge connecting humans and demi-humans. Azir tells him that this is exactly what he wants. His dream is to create a world where people can laugh together. Back in the present, the battle continues, and these memories show us just how much Azir's personality has changed. Azir launches a powerful attack, but Togo manages to block it. The battle becomes extremely noisy because of all the sounds coming from the equipment being used. After that, Azir uses a skill called privilege removal, and a monster appears behind him. This makes the fight much more difficult for Togo, because now he has to deal with both the privilege monster and Amen's power at the same time. That is when Logi steps in to help him. Togo tries to attack Azir, but Azir easily grabs him and slams him into the ground, leaving Togo badly injured. Idola rushes toward Togo to check on him, but Azir uses his ability and stops time. Idola begins thinking about the frozen state they are trapped in and realizes that time itself cannot truly be stopped because she is still able to think. She then remembers that Azir's main ability is controlling sand. Before she can finish her conclusion, we return to another flashback. We see a rebellion breaking out in front of the palace where Azir and his father live. His father goes outside to confront the protesters and tries to calm them down. He asks them to move somewhere peaceful so they can discuss the situation properly. However, they tell him to be quiet and attack him with weapons until he dies. After that, Rania offers to help Azir overcome the crisis his country is facing, but the people remain angry because from their point of view, the elves were the reason the rebellion happened in the first place, and now they see Azir cooperating with them. Azir slowly begins to change and starts searching for a way to prevent something like this from ever happening again. Eventually, he reaches the conclusion that overwhelming power is the answer because it would force everyone to obey his orders. Suddenly, Vidan appears before him out of nowhere and tells him that he is right and that power will solve everything. He then gives Azir a mana seed. Back in the present, we see Logi using his 6th holy sword. He manages to strike Azir, causing the freezing spell to disappear. Azir is shocked that Logi was able to move, but Logi simply replies, "I can move because I'm a hero." Idola then explains that Azir was never stopping time itself. He was only stopping the time of the sand. Everyone is surprised by her conclusion, including Azir himself. Idola explains that if something were truly frozen in time, it would be impossible to move it. The real reason they could not move was because the sand had completely surrounded their bodies and locked them in place. The reason Logi was able to move was that his sword absorbed the mana inside the sand, freeing him and allowing him to move normally. After that, Azir uses his strongest transformation into Amen. Togo steps forward to face him and continues fighting while the rest of the group supports him. Thanks to their teamwork, they manage to surround Azir, but suddenly, the mana seed begins changing and starts affecting his mind. Togo summons the victory launcher and everyone combines their power to launch a joint attack at Azir. However, Azir refuses to give up and insists that he needs even more power. At that moment, Rania tells Togo that she heard Azir's inner voice. That voice was saying, "Save me." Togo immediately understands what is happening and summons the Kizuna beasts, combining all of them together. This is the first time he has gathered 5 complete bonds, allowing the Kaiser to finally use 100% of its power. During that moment, we return to another flashback showing the story of the Rangers and how each of them joined and became part of the team. The Blue Ranger had been investing with Professor Pythagoras for more than 10 years and had already been a businessman since his elementary school days. Everyone constantly teased each other, showing just how strong the bond between them had become. The Blue Ranger also contributed to bond research because he possessed what was known as a Great Bond Spirit, a special type of bond capable of producing far more bond energy than normal. Then the Bond Destroyers appeared. To fight them, work began on creating the Ranger bracelets they now use. Very few people were actually capable of using these bracelets. However, the idea that there must only be 5 Rangers was never a fixed rule, meaning more Rangers could potentially be added in the future. The first person to become a Ranger was the Blue Ranger. The Yellow Ranger came second, while Shoji, the Green Ranger, became the third. The flashback ends, and we return to the battle. With all 5 bonds finally gathered, they can now use 100% of the Kaiser's power. However, everyone's emotions are still scattered and out of sync, causing the power they produce to become unstable. Togo asks everyone to calm down and bring their feelings together. After that, they launch a powerful blast toward Azir, causing him to disappear from sight. For a moment, they believe the attack worked, but then several sand tornadoes appear in front of them, and they realize that the cannon did not produce the result they wanted. Togo summons the sword and creates several tornadoes to fight against them, but his plan fails. Instead, Azir's tornadoes begin growing even stronger as they absorb more sand. This makes Togo's tornado strategy completely useless because Azir can absorb the sand inside them. Togo's tornado disappears, while Azir's becomes even stronger. That is when Idola comes up with a new idea. She suggests using the teleportation technique to gather the fragments of Azir's core, then rebuilding them using bond energy. That might allow them to return him to his original state. However, they will need an enormous amount of bond energy, enough to pull together Azir's scattered fragments and reconstruct him. As for forming the bond needed for that, the responsibility will fall on Rania, and with that, their plan begins. However, another problem quickly appears. Idola's spell cannot keep up with how quickly Azir is absorbing the sand. Idola realizes that the plan will fail at this rate, but Togo tells her that he will give her the time she needs and make the Kaiser hold out longer. He asks her to focus completely on her magic and tells her that he believes in the power of her magic. Idola regains her confidence and decides to live up to Togo's expectations. At that moment, the bond between them begins glowing once again, just like it did before. And because of this sudden improvisation, a new weapon forms for the Kaiser, known as the Scepter of Hope. The new weapon looks similar to Idola's scepter, almost as if it is the physical form of the bond between her and Togo. At the same time, the Kaiser turns golden, and Idola becomes able to control Kizuna Kaiser's energy, as if it were her own mana. Everyone continues carrying out the plan, and the bond between Azir and Rania works exactly as they hoped. A figure made of sand appears and repeatedly calls Rania's name. Then the plan finally succeeds, and Azir's body is restored. However, it is not over yet. Teltina summons Virko Lux and uses him to remove the mana seed from Azir. Night eventually falls, and Azir apologizes to the other elves for everything that happened. They do not forgive him for what he did, but they tell him that their goals are still the same. They will work together to create a world where humans and demi-humans can live together normally. It seems like everything is heading toward a happy ending, but suddenly, Vidan objects and blasts them with powerful lightning attacks. Teltina senses something strange about Vidan, and it turns out that her instincts were right. Vidan is actually a royal demon. He begins saying strange things, explaining that he needs to eliminate them so the demon queen can awaken once again and he can marry his mother. Togo and everyone else are shocked by what they hear, but Vidan quickly explains that he means it figuratively, not literally. After that, we discover a horrifying truth. Vidan was the one who caused the rebellion from the very beginning. He was also responsible for the death of Azir's father, and he was the one who kept feeding the hatred inside Azir. Togo prepares to transform, but suddenly, an attack comes from somewhere else. We discover that Abu Dhabi is the one who fired it, and just like that, the battle becomes even more difficult. Rania attacks using Amen's power, but Vidan and Abu Dhabi easily defeat her and nearly kill her. Fortunately, the rest of the group steps in at the last moment and saves her. After that, Vidan and Abu Dhabi launch a combined attack that shocks everyone with electricity. Abu Dhabi then throws his weapon toward Idola, but Togo steps in front of her and takes the attack instead. He then looks at Logi and tells him, "If it comes to that, kill me." It seems that Togo is preparing to do something extremely dangerous. Suddenly, he manages to transform into the Black Ranger. Just from his appearance, it is clear that his power has risen to an incredible level. We then return to the flashback about the Rangers. The fourth member of the team was the Pink Ranger, Tsukasa. We see Emily and Tsukasa arguing over the pink uniform. As for the final member, he was the biggest troublemaker of them all, Togo. Everyone was always telling him to stop fighting battles on his own. After that, we see Professor Pythagoras talking about the Black Ranger. He explains that this form can use a person's deepest fears of loneliness, despair, and hatred toward their enemies, turning all of those emotions into enormous power. However, using this power completely drains the user's energy. Back in the present, everyone is shocked by the sinister form Togo has transformed into. Vidan tries to attack him again, but before Vidan can even finish moving his hand, Togo appears behind him and lands a powerful blow that sends him flying an enormous distance away. He then grabs Abu Dhabi and attacks him as well. Vidan tries to target the rest of the group, but Togo is still conscious and in control of himself, so he quickly moves to protect them. After that, Togo begins preparing a missile attack. During that time, we return to another flashback, where we see Togo as a child asking his father what his name means. His father tells him that Tu means light, while Go means wisdom. He explains that the meaning they wanted his name to carry was for him to connect with many people and become friends with them. But suddenly, the happy memory turns into a painful one. We see that both his father and mother have passed away. Togo then begins remembering the words of people who saw him as nothing more than a burden they could not take care of. Back in the battle, Togo launches the missiles, but Abu Dhabi appears behind him and tries to strike him. However, Togo is completely unaffected. Abu Dhabi and Vidon then unleash their strongest attacks, but Togo blocks both of them with a single strike. He then continues attacking the two of them. Everyone is shocked by just how powerful Togo has become. However, Idola tells them that what is happening looks incredibly painful. Togo's screams and the way he is fighting show nothing but despair and pain, and just watching him in this state hurts her. We then see Togo crying as he says, "I won't let this happen again. I won't feel these emotions again." After that, we return to another flashback. There, we see the Silver Ranger, Nikaido Tenri. From the very first moment she speaks to them, she tells everyone that she will not join the team because she has already seen a vision in which she dies. Professor Pythagoras explains that her ability is to predict the future, a power she has possessed since birth. He reveals that the reason he brought her there is because she saw a vision of herself fighting while using a new model of the Kizuna bracelet. The problem is that this model is still being developed in secret. Because of that, Tenri decides to work separately from the rest of the team. She then leaves the place. Everyone is surprised by how calm Togo is and turns to look at him. From his expression, it is clear that he admires Tenri. After that, Togo approaches her and asks her to stop fighting alone, trying to convince her to let him help. But things do not go as they expected. In the end, Tenri dies right in front of Togo. Togo blames himself because he was the one who convinced her to join them. However, Tenri tries to comfort him and reveals that she joined the team because she had seen a future where becoming one of them would allow her to save him. Realizing that Tenri sacrificed herself for him only makes Togo's pain worse. This also seems to explain why he became so angry when Logai tried to sacrifice himself to save him. Back in the present, Togo's pain continues to grow. He admits to himself that loneliness and pain have hurt him deeply, which is why he has always tried to fill that emptiness with bonds and friends. After that, Togo manages to defeat Vidon and Abu Dhabi. However, Abu Dhabi grabs Vidon and escapes with him, but it is already too late for Togo. He begins losing control of himself. Idola tries to talk to him, but Togo attacks her. Logi quickly steps in to protect her, remembering what Togo told him before transforming. Idola explains that bonds are the only thing capable of bringing Togo back to normal. She also realizes that his transformation will end if they can remove the bond plate from his hand. Logi uses the seventh sword, while Rania transforms into Amen and uses herself as bait to draw the hands coming from Togo away, making the bond plate easier to reach. Idola freezes Togo with her magic, allowing Logi to rush toward the plate and try to remove it, but Togo sends him flying. Logi realizes that if this continues, they will all have to attack Togo at the same time. Before carrying out the plan, they ask Teltina to move away and take everyone nearby with her. Then they launch a combined attack, weakening Togo enough for Logi to approach him again. Togo strikes him once more, but this time, Logi takes the hit and refuses to back down. He finally manages to remove the bond plate. Togo immediately loses consciousness, and Idola uses healing magic on him. When he wakes up, Togo apologizes for everything he did. However, no one blames him. Instead, they thank him for driving away the demons and saving them. Togo then tells everyone that when he first came to this world, he was completely alone. But now, he has many friends. And that, my friend, is how anime ends. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to let us know in the comments. And of course, like and subscribe. Until next time.